I want to thank Jared Kushner, who's been so involved in this, and all of my guys. We have a great team. We have a team of all-stars.
That was Donald Trump in February praising his son-in-law and senior advisor, Jared Kushner. Kushner is now the focus, I should say, of the FBI's investigation for his contacts with Russia during the transition. Let's talk about that with our panel. Former Republican presidential candidate, Senator Rick Santorum, Jennifer Granholm, former Democratic governor of Michigan, Republican strategist Kevin Madden, and former Democratic Ohio State Senator Nina Turner. Senator Santorum, I'll start with you. Does this trouble you?
Not at all, to be very honest with you.
It doesn't trouble you, of course.
Absolutely not. Look, Jared Kushner was involved in the campaign on policy. He was involved afterwards in the transition. And to me, it's not inappropriate at all for him to be talking to people about, at least the substance of what I heard about, we don't know this to be true, was, hey, will the Russians back away from Iran? That's a good thing to be talking to Russia.
But with a back channel, to ask if he can have a communications channel directly to Moscow as a member of the presidential
transition team. Yeah, to me, look, there are all sorts of back channels that are established in lots of different capacities, and he's clearly a very close confidant of the president, and for him to have a back channel doesn't bother me in the least.
So,
it doesn't.
It's in a context, Rick. He fails to disclose meetings with the Russians on his security forms. There are, in the team, 18 failures to disclose contacts with Russia. Jim Comey is fired for investigating Russia. Mike Pence is lied to about Russian contacts. So the question really is, why all of this secrecy? What is going on underneath all of this cover-up?
Conflation.
No, well, you can't deny all of those facts have happened. And so what's going on? This is a common sense question. Is it about the fact that Donald Trump has got financial interests that benefit his organizations and he doesn't want people to know that? Is it payback for the Russians having helped him get elected? Is it about covering up the Michael Steele dossier? Who knows? But this is why we need an independent commission at the level of Congress to be able to investigate this, in addition to the special prosecutor to catch all of the context.
I think it's great, but nothing in this Jared Kushner story,
we agree on something.
To me, says that there is any connection between
that he lied
Russian
on his
meddling
forms
in the election and the story.
Kevin, you are a communications specialist. The White House is preparing a war room. How would you lead that war room and lead this communication strategy if you were in the White House?
Well, look, I think oftentimes you see White Houses, when they're in trouble like this, reflexively say, let's put together a war room. Well, a war room is no good unless you have a strategy. So the strategy has to be, first off, to compartmentalize the investigation part of this issue and have somebody whose daily job is to deal with just inquiries about the special counsel and his investigation. Because the biggest problem for this is where I am worried about it is that investigations are worrisome. They become a huge distraction. The president and his team have to get back on offense and talk about the issue agenda that got them there in the White House to begin with. So I think that's where I would focus, is compartmentalizing the inquiries about the special investigation, getting back on offense by talking about the agenda.
How's this playing in Ohio?
No one in Ohio is asking about Russia. I mean, we have to deal with this. We definitely have to deal with this. It's on the minds of the American people. But if you want to know what people in Ohio, they want to know about jobs. They want to know about their children. I was just in California, where California folks, especially the national nurses, pushing for healthy California, single payer, Medicare for all kinds of things. I talked to a baby boomer, African-American baby boomer who lives right here in D.C. Russia is not in his top 5. He believes that both parties are failing. I talked to a Gen Xer, a white male who's in the union. He wants third party. We are losing. The president should be concerned about this. All Americans should be concerned about this. But if we were to go to Flint, then they wouldn't ask you about Russia and Jared Kushner. They want to know how they're going to get some clean water and why 8,000 people are about to lose their homes. We are preoccupied with this. It's not that this is not important.
Yep.
But everyday Americans are being left behind because it's Russia, Russia, Russia. Do we need all 535 members of the Congress to deal with Russia? Can some of them deal with some domestic issues?
Let me ask you about a former member of Congress, your former boss, the former Speaker, John Boehner. He's sort of been letting it rip lately. And this past week, he said the following. He praised the president for his work against ISIS, but he said everything else Trump has done has been a complete disaster. He's still learning how to be president. Now, if we were in the green room, I would ask you to give your answer with the John Boehner invitation because you're so good at it. But that's up to you. You do.
Right? Well, look, this is John Boehner. I remember when we would brief him on Capitol Hill before he would do media briefings, he would oftentimes say something privately that we'd say, whoa, John, you can't say that out there because you have a responsibility to the conference. You have a responsibility to focus on the issue agenda. This is John Boehner unfiltered, and I think a lot of what he's saying is a reflection, not a perfect reflection, but there are a lot of members of Congress that are sort of exasperated right now that there hasn't been more of a focus on the issue agenda, and that what they're left to do is litigate the day-by-day news that's coming out about the special counsel investigation.
And Senator, you might think that the Jared story is not a big one, but it's hard to disagree with your former Gang of Seven member, John Boehner. That's going back in time, right?
26 years.
About the notion that the agenda is off track.
They're both right. I mean, the fact is that this administration should be doing so well and could be doing so well if they just focused on getting their agenda passed. The last 9 days hopefully have showed the president that if you stay on message, you stick to the script, you focus on policy, you drive home the messages that you talked about during the campaign and that people in America are excited about, you can be a great president. If you tweet every day and complain about the media and complain about how you're being treated, you're going to be sidetracked and you're not going to get your deals done.
And cut
That's the message.
And cut $800 billion from Medicaid.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why John Boehner said at the end of that, hallelujah, 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 that he's not in that position anymore, not in D.C. anymore, is because he sees what's coming down the pipe. The people are reacting to the fact that the Republicans are going to slash 23 million people off of Medicare. In fact, 17% of independents have said that they would vote, would be only 17% said that they would be in favor of a member of Congress who voted for that disastrous Republican health care bill, because if you're 64 years old and you're making $26,000 a year, their bill would have that person pay $16,000 a year in premiums. Someone making $14 an hour. Now, you cannot say that is a good thing, Rick Santorum.
I welcome this discussion. I mean, I understand what CBO says. CBO has gotten Obamacare wrong, not by a little bit, by a large margin. CBO always predicts that government-mandated solutions work better than market-based solutions. So you just can't rely on CBO on this.
CBO is appointed by a Republican
that government-run healthcare is not going to work, is not working, and we have to let the free market.
But even Speaker Boehner said that if it were him, that he would have advised the president to fix Obamacare and not necessarily.
Well, it's easy. In fairness, it's easy for him to say that now. He also led a House to repeal Obamacare like 727 times.
But this is real, though. Yeah. This flesh and blood is behind these decisions.
That's right.
We just have a few seconds left. Tom MacArthur, who was a member of the Moderate Tuesday group, quit, and he said he thinks that the reality is that Republicans would rather just see this health care thing go away. You believe that's true?
I don't know. I mean, I think many folks have come to the conclusion that it is worse to not have delivered on a promise than it is to have to go out and litigate, I think, a new, or at least promote a new advancement of the AHCA. And I think that's one of the big worries, is that you'll have such a depressed Republican base if you don't follow through on the promise to repeal Obamacare.
Such a great discussion this morning. Thank you. Happy Memorial Day weekend.